Hi, welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. Coyote against the wall again. Look, interesting lighting. It's very bright right now. I need to talk about the space I'm in and who I'm associated with, where I'm at, what's going on. I am an outlier. I am an eternal outlier. I am in the Enlightenment community. I'm in the Enlightenment space, the fundamental well-being world, whatever you want to call it. I come at this not from the rules and regulations and dogmas and moralities of Buddhism, nor do I come at it from the love of God bliss of Christianity or any other particular tradition. I am just, so I'm spiritual. I do definitely accept the evidence that we have indicates that we are eternal souls going through multiple lifetimes. We have, what evidence we have actually points to that and is confirmed and everything. And I've had experiences of that in my own life in various exploration sessions, okay? You can't call them therapies because they're not really therapeutic, but whatever, spiritual sessions. So I'm good with that. It's not that I don't think there's a soul. I do. I think that there is a kind of a group of soul, and I don't say plural, I don't say souls, I say soul. So it's kind of paradoxically singular and multiple at the same time. And that's all, whatever. You can model that however you want. The direct experience is fantastic, and that's where I'm at. But I don't have the dogmas or the religions involved. And that's not how I got to enlightenment. I got there very, very simply. It's a very simple, not simple. It's a very unique neurological trick for humans. I think this is one of the things about embodiment of souls. You know, it's not that you can embody a soul, your soul, a human soul, a God soul into a watermelon. Maybe you can. Completely different experience. But in the animal kingdom, there are some animals, basically humans, who have the ability to flip some switches, epigenetic, physiological switches, and really change the experience of reality. The way, so in the transformation technology type of community, the model that you would use is the bird. The bird pecks at the food and then looks around for predators, and then pecks at the food and looks around for predators. There's a constant threat circuit going on all the time. And humans have that, and it's built in way back here, lizard brain level. But we also have the ability, evidently, to turn it off. And change the experience. That does not mean that you are no longer attentive to threats, that you are no longer responsive to threats, that you can no longer actually perform the right action to alleviate, resolve, or overcome threats. Now, that's important. I said right action, and I mean that very, very specifically, not in the limited Buddhist sense of right action referring to only 4 moral virtues, or is it 8 moral, whatever. There's the Eightfold Path and the 4 Noble Virtues, whatever it is. Right action comes from one of them, and it's very limited, and to me, it's very, very fenced in and restrictive. Right action is action that is in alignment with your soul and your purposes of reality, of the universe. So that's somewhat consensual, which is fun because I really don't like that word or the concept, right? Everyone knows that, but there's something of a consensus in there. So we can turn off the negative, stressful aspects of that and rise to a higher level of survival. And that's really amazing. That's where you get the enlightenment, the fundamental well-being, the persistent non-symbolic experience, whatever it is that you want to label it as. It comes from there. Humans also have a unique ability to create hierarchies. I talk about this periodically, and this isn't specifically related to the fundamental well-being side of it, but it gives us some clues, okay? It gives us some viewpoints on it, and that is that if you remember Jordan Peterson, right? He's a behavioral psychologist, clinical psychologist. He had clinical practice. And he talks about, he's very well educated, very well informed. He talks about how there are these behaviors that go all the way back to the lobster level of human evolution. Okay, and if a lobster wins a fight, ooh, you get lots of brain chemicals and you're bigger and you're puffier. And if you lose a fight, you don't get those brain chemicals, you get other brain chemicals, and you crawl away and you shrink up and shrivel. And those chemicals, like serotonin, are important to your health, your relaxation, your cortisol levels, your hormone balance, everything about your physiology, including how your brain and your mind function. Well, humans are the only creatures we know of that can create an infinite number of hierarchies so that everyone has the option to be top lobster. Think about that. Just really, really think about that. I've talked about it before, but let's drill it in just a little bit. Top lobster. You know, you don't have to like Jordan Peterson, and I bring him up on purpose because I'm trying to get away from the programs that you are running about your information. The information is only acceptable if it comes from a certain source, or if it doesn't mention this source or that mythology or whatever. Okay, don't care. Just don't care. I'm going to renegade out on this one. So you can be the top of a hierarchy, and there's an infinite number of hierarchies, you not necessarily top, but placed highly, where you get the serotonin, where you get to be good and feel good in your mind, in your brain, in your physiology, in your neurology. Okay, because neurology is much bigger than your brain. You have as many neurons down in your gut as you have in your skull, and so on and so forth. We all know this by this point. At least if you've listened to any of my videos, because I repeat it endlessly. So, we can create hierarchies, and the way to create a healthy hierarchy is to have the dominance or the place in the hierarchy not dependent on putting another person or hierarchy down. This is the thing. I talked about this in Cultural Nationalism, the video from a couple days ago. This is the thing. The healthy versus unhealthy thing is, can you create your specialness? Can you create your serotonin hit? Can you create your place in the hierarchy, your culture, your cultural place in the global hierarchy? Can you be, as an individual or a group, special without putting someone else down, without denigrating or destroying some other group? That is the key. That's really key. Anyway, back to the fundamental well-being side of it. We also seem to have an ability, and I suspect that this ability does exist in dogs, but they can't turn the switch themselves, but certain owners can, and that's just a symbiotic thing, but I'm not going to go off into woo land on that right now. Humans definitely have the ability to rewire the survival circuits to a higher level, to operate on a different level, to operate on a level that is not constant stimulation of the sympathetic nervous system, but something different. I don't know how to describe it. Big peace, the ability to fight with love, which is just, again, I come at this from a very different place. Most of the people who are finders, who are in the Enlightenment community, the fundamental well-being community, whatever it is, the Rupert Spira community, the Eckhart Tolle community, whatever it is, most of these people come from a different space. They're coming at this from a seeker space. They're coming at this from a climate crisis space. They're coming at this from what you would call a very social leftist orientation. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. They tend to just be the people who go to the hippie festivals, which I do too, but somewhere in the background of those hippie festivals, there's a couple of angry veterans who make things go. And you'll see that at carnivals too. I've worked at carnivals, and you'll have a bunch of alternatively hippie, stoner, drunk, druggy people, and you've got a couple of people in the background who really, really know how the machines work and have a machine mentality and ability to do stepwise steps and stuff. And it's a thing, right? So I come at this from a different perspective. I come at this from a, that whole warrior, veteran, individual liberty, a different perspective. And that gives me a different place in the community. It gives me a very renegade place in the community. So when I talk about rewiring the survival circuits and going to a higher plane, I'm not talking about not being able to change your tire or handle the skid when your front tire on your motorcycle goes out, or respond to a threat, or handle a mugging at a gas station. I'm talking about being able to transcend the sympathetic nervous response and have a better, faster, more successful reaction that may involve violence or non-violence or whatever. There's all sorts of different answers at different times. A lot of people default to a lower grade answer because that's where they operate at. You can get a successful answer that's at a very low level, a very low vibrational level. You can get a successful answer that's a very high vibrational level. That does not mean that one is inherently pacifist and one is inherently warmongering or whatever the word is that people use for hating stuff. It just means that you can fight and win with love and peace in your heart. And that's the key. So this is a very weird talk about enlightenment, but I'm really serious. We can rewire things so that we operate at a higher level. It's a spiral. It's that spiral again. How high that level goes, I don't know. I don't know if there's one rewiring process or if there's multiple rewiring processes. I suspect that there's a couple different ones going on, and that some of them actually get to a point where they're not super adapted to Stone Age life, and that's all solo, loner Stone Age life. Communities, possibly, but that's just a whole topic and discussion that I'm not going to have right now. This is already a very long video. I'm just trying to explain that I am in a position, at a place, where this is very real. This is very much my experience. I do have things that can drag me down and into the mud universe, prison universe, whatever you want to call it, the normal, everyday life of fundamental discontent. I can go visit. It doesn't stick, If I go to, say, Twitter, and there's this thing on the right sidebar, all the trending stuff, all the stuff that's designed to trigger you and make you angry and stuff. You go click, and you get a bunch of unsorted tweets from twits. You can pull yourself out of the blissful part of fundamental well-being for a little while, but it always comes back, right? And this is actually one of my touchstone areas here, is when people can't accept the bliss without trying to either manipulate it to serve a purpose, an external purpose. So you're denying people freedom by trying to manipulate enlightenment to serve a purpose. It's usually the climate crisis people or the mass extinction people. That's just how it goes. You've got the Mother Teresa's of the world who try to do it a little differently and try to manipulate it into a different context, which I can understand. I can understand it all. Or accept it all, or allow it all. It's all allowable in the universe. And there are people for whom the existence of perceived emergencies or crises or something prevents them from allowing others to have fundamental well-being. And that's, so these are big red flags in my thinking, in my experience, in my awareness, where I think, I try to accept and allow the people, but I do actually accept and allow that there are mental, mind, brain interaction programs that are going on that you have to, I call them red flags, but it's where's your deconditioning, where's your reconditioning, what are you programming yourself to? Fundamental well-being doesn't mean that you don't have a physiology or a psychology, but it does mean that you have a lot of freedom to work with it in ways that people honestly just don't believe are possible. So what are you doing with it? What are you choosing to do with it? If you're choosing to build a trap, a prison, then I'm going to be a little leery. That's just the thing. I'm going to be a little leery of that. And I try really hard not to build myself a prison or a trap. Of course, I go overboard. I go so overboard, I'm in opposition to a lot of the wealth and success and material concerns people, because it's just not where I'm at in the journey. It's not where I want to be in the journey, more specifically. I don't care if it happens and it makes it and it's great and everything flows. I just don't have any space in my experience right now to actually worry about it. So that probably didn't make any sense to you. 90% of the people listening to this video, maybe 95% of the people listening to this video. Of course, I only have 77 subscribers, probably back down to 73 after this video. So there is no 98%, 99%, because that wouldn't divide up evenly, right? Do I have half a person, 1/3 of a person listening to me? Anyway, so that's where I'm at on one level. We have an ability to rewire our brains, the basic function of our brains, whether it's epigenetically, psychologically, neurologically, whatever you want to call it. It's all a system. It's all very systemic. People like to use the word ecology. I think that's fraught with issues, so I'm going to come up with a different word for the system of systems. So everything has an effect, and that does mean that your social environment has an effect, but you affect the social environment. Everything, very big systems. People talk about the microbiome. Well, the microbiome exists basically inside your body, on your body, and outside your body for a huge radius, hundreds of yards, miles even, and that's all your microbiome. Well, your neurology also exists at that same level in space. It does include the non-human organisms inside you and outside you, and the human organisms outside you, and the whole thing. And it's a huge, huge space, which I'm going to get into in another video. This video is just about, what I talked about. Stay sideways.